There is a certain kind of person who can hear a distant mechanical note, barely more than a vibration in the air, and feel something tighten in their chest before they even understand why. Not because it is loud, not because it is fast, but because some part of them still recognizes a language the modern world has almost stopped speaking. And if that sounds dramatic, it is only because the feeling is real. These people do not always look the way you expect. They are not always the obvious car obsessives. Not just the man with stacks of old magazines in the garage. Not just the woman who pauses when a downshift echoes through a tunnel. Sometimes it is simply the person who feels strangely untouched by smoothness. The person who notices that convenience has become so complete, so total, that almost nothing asks anything of them anymore. And for some reason, that does not feel like freedom. It feels like loss. Sooner or later, the subject reveals itself. Hydraulic steering. A manual gearbox. An engine note that has not been filtered into politeness. The faint vibration through the seat. The sense that the machine is not protecting you from itself, but speaking directly to you. It is analog sports cars. But this was never really just about analog sports cars. Because when someone says they miss analog sports cars, they are usually not just saying they miss old technology. They are saying something much deeper, even if they do not realize it yet. They are saying they miss a world where their inputs still felt legible, a world where effort produced sensation, where attention mattered, where mistakes had texture and small victories had weight. What they miss is not just the machine. What they miss is the dignity of participation. You can hear it in the way they talk. People who are being honest do not usually begin with horsepower numbers or lap times. Not really. What they say instead is that the car felt alive, that it talked to them, that it rewarded patience, that it had to be driven, not merely operated. And those words matter because they are not only describing machinery, they are describing a relationship. Most people say they want freedom, but what they often mean is that they want less friction. They want a life where nothing interrupts them, nothing resists them, nothing exposes their lack of skill, patience, or commitment. And that desire makes sense. Of course it does. Friction is tiring. Responsibility is heavy. Ambiguity is stressful. The modern world has become incredibly good at reducing all of that. It smooths, predicts, corrects, warns, filters, cushions, automates. But here is the problem. When you remove too much resistance from an experience, you often remove the very thing that lets you feel your own presence inside it. That is why analog sports cars hit some people so deeply, because they resist you in small, relentless ways. They ask for timing. They ask for listening. They ask you to pay attention to your hands, your feet, your ears, and the weight shifting beneath you. They do not let you disappear into abstraction. You cannot fully outsource the moment. And for some people, that is not inconvenience. It is relief. Psychologists have a term for part of this: internal locus of control. It sounds clinical, but the idea is simple. It is the feeling that your actions genuinely shape what happens next, that what you do matters in a direct, visible, undeniable way. People with a strong internal locus of control tend to feel more responsible for their lives, more engaged in the process of becoming who they are, and more uneasy inside systems that reduce them to passive observers. An analog sports car is almost a perfect mechanical expression of that psychology. If you are clumsy, it tells you. If you are patient, it tells you. If you are precise, it tells you that too. The machine is honest, and honesty, even demanding honesty, can feel intimate. That is why the longing can seem disproportionate to outsiders. Someone hears a person talk about steering feel or throttle response and assumes this is just technical obsession. Maybe nostalgia, maybe even childishness, but the emotional charge comes from somewhere deeper than that. The person who misses those cars often misses environments where they could still trust their own sensitivity, where skill was not decorative, but necessary, where being present changed the quality of the experience. They are not just grieving simplicity. They are grieving feedback, and feedback is becoming rare. The modern world is remarkably good at reducing discomfort, but it often does so by muting the signals that once helped people feel competent, useful, and awake. Cars have become quieter, safer, faster, smarter, undeniably better in many measurable ways. And the same pattern exists everywhere else, too. In our phones, in our homes, in our work, even in our relationships. In that strange digital way, modern relationships increasingly exist. Everything is becoming smoother, more predictive, more forgiving, less demanding, and yet many people have started to notice something they struggle to explain clearly. A fully frictionless life can begin to feel strangely unreal. Your mistakes no longer teach you in the same way. Your successes no longer feel fully earned. You get where you are going, but you do not always feel that you truly traveled. That is part of why people who miss analog sports cars are often talking about more than transportation, even when they are barely talking at all. Because yes, life becomes practical. They drive something modern because they have to. Families, budgets, weather, time. These things make their claims. But somewhere inside them, there remains a standard by which experience is measured. And that standard is not efficiency. It is aliveness. Of course, memory complicates all of this. There is a cognitive bias called rosy retrospection, which means the mind tends to remember the past as cleaner, warmer, and more meaningful than it really was. We forget the rattles, the weak air conditioning, the repair bills, the bad ergonomics, the cold starts, the fact that many old cars were objectively inconvenient and sometimes genuinely terrible. Nostalgia edits aggressively. It cuts away the waiting and preserves the feeling. But even that tells you something important, because the mind does not romanticize everything equally. It selects. It preserves what carried meaning. And for many people, the meaning was never only in the car. It was in the life around the car. It was the parent driving with one hand lightly resting on the shifter, as if control could be calm instead of loud. It was the summer evening with the windows down, when fuel, heat, and dry air mixed into something you could never intentionally recreate. It was being young enough to believe adulthood might involve competence instead of endless digital maintenance. It was the first time a machine answered you with enough clarity that you understood, maybe for the first time, that precision has a feeling. Sometimes the car becomes the container for an entire era of connection. And when people say they miss the car, what they really miss is the version of life that still felt reachable back then. This is where the topic stops being niche and starts becoming universal. Because not everyone cares about sports cars, but almost everyone knows what it feels like to miss something that once made them feel more vividly involved in their own existence. For one person, it is film photography. For another, handwriting. For another, litive music before phones were raised into the air like shields. The object changes. The psychology does not. We are mourning forms of experience that required us to show up more fully. And that requirement is uncomfortable, which is exactly why it matters. People like to imagine that what they want most is ease. But many of the experiences they remember most fondly were not easy at all. They were slow, awkward, uncertain, embarrassing, and filled with the possibility of failure. The first conversation that mattered, the first job done well, the first road driven properly, the first person who made you realize that attention itself can be a form of love. We call these things meaningful because they changed us, and they changed us because they asked something from us before they gave anything back. An analog sports car makes that exchange impossible to ignore. It does not flatter you with the illusion that every input is equally good. It does not erase the boundary between amateur and master. It lets the careless driver feel careless, and the attentive driver feel attentive. In a culture increasingly built around removing judgment from the user experience, that kind of honesty can feel almost moral. And maybe that is the real reason some people become unexpectedly emotional around these machines. Not because they worship the past, not because they cannot adapt, but because they sense, perhaps more clearly than most, how much of modern life is built around protecting us from direct contact with consequence. And yes, many people want that protection. They say they want authenticity, but prefer insulation. They say they want freedom, but want curated choices. They say they want to feel alive, but only if aliveness arrives without inconvenience, without risk, without the possibility of being revealed as unskilled. But the person who misses analog sports cars often suspects that this bargain is too expensive, because when you remove too much friction from an experience, you do not just remove discomfort, you may remove the self. You become a manager of outcomes rather than a participant in reality. You succeed, but your success feels strangely anonymous. Life becomes more impressive and somehow less intimate at the same time. So no, this was never just about old cars, or noise, or nostalgia, or a preference for mechanical things over digital ones. It was about refusing to become a passenger in your own life. It was about longing for a world that still answered you directly. It was about the fear that if every meaningful edge is sanded down, then eventually we stop developing the kind of attention that makes meaning possible in the first place. And maybe that is why the subject lingers long after the car is sold, long after the roads change, long after practicality wins. Because what people are really trying not to lose is not a vehicle, but a philosophy. The belief that engagement matters. The belief that the body should still be involved in the mind's decisions. The belief that some forms of difficulty are not obstacles to life, but proof that you are actually inside it. So when you feel that strange ache at the sound of an old engine, or at the memory of a steering wheel that did not filter itself before reaching your hands, maybe you are not just missing analog sports cars. Maybe you are asking a more uncomfortable question, as too much of your life becomes so comfortable that it no longer feels fully yours.